Morning everyone, Carol here at Oak House Journals, and as always thank you so much for joining me again today. A big warm welcome to each and every one of you, and I have to say it is a very warm day here. Certainly inside it's lovely, snug and warm. I've got the heating on. We've had snow overnight, and there is a beautiful reservoir about 20 minutes drive away from me here that's on set into high ground. And when I woke up this morning and opened the curtains, it was covered with snow up there, and a real temptation. I wanted to jump in the car and head up to that higher ground to go and have a look at the snow, because snow for me is a great joy, as you can see here by my snowy tags. But I know it is some chagrin to other people, but for me, I love my snow, and I would love to head out there and go and have a walk in the snow in the woods and everything up round the reservoir. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we can't do that. So I decided that I would make some snowy, wintry tags today, a little bit on a rustic-y theme. Really simple. They might look hard, but actually they are not hard at all. It's just lots and lots of layers. So I've got two here that are the same because they've got mother of pearl star buttons in the middle. Pop those to one side. This one is slightly different, and this is the wooden star that you saw me drill through in the product review for BB Crafts. As I said, I only had one and I wanted to use it on a project, and this was the project I had in mind, so that's my little star. And then again I reverted back to the poinsettia die that I used in a previous video, and the reason for this was that these were leftover little pieces of vellum die cut that I wanted to use. So I'm going to do a little bit of a tutorial, my kind of tutorial, because I can't edit, as you know. So this is a walkthrough tutorial of both these styles. Whoops, a daisy, that got caught up. Both these tags. Okay, so let's get started. I'll pop those to one side. As always, what I did was I used my Ranger size 8 manila tag as a template, and I had some lightweight craft card in my stash, and actually these were cards, card blanks that I hadn't used, so it's fairly lightweight. Again, I would say 160 grams in weight. And the reason I cut out two, as I've said previously, I like joining the two together, and it gives me a nice substantial tag. You don't have to do that. If you've got heavier cardstock, go for your life, use that. But I quite like using it. So I've cut two out, and I don't know whether you can see there is a right side and a wrong side. So if your card is like that, just make sure that whichever side you prefer, you put that, you put the wrong, I'm getting myself all muddled up here. Whatever side you prefer as your uppermost layer, make sure that you put the wrong sides together when you glue or stitch your cards. So as you can see here, I've done that with this. So again, just very, very quickly, for those that haven't seen previous videos, ruler out, and the tag that I use is about just shy of 3 1/4 by 6 1/4 or 8 centimeters. It's bang on 8 centimeters by 16 centimeters. So go with the centimeter measurements, because then you'll have bang on the right size if you want to copy. But you know, tags can be any size, can't they? It's whatever suits you, whatever you like. So the next thing I did was, here's my two blanks. The next thing I did was take one of the blanks. I've set the other side, the other one to one side. I've got a piece of just scrap paper, and you might recognise that from when I did my snowy Christmas garden journal. That was my template for that to show you. And I've just creased it, and then I've used these Stampendous, if you can see at the bottom there, frant-tage embossing kit. I will put the link in the description box down below. You do not have to use this by any means. You could use anything on these tags to create this background. I quite like using these because if you can see, they're slightly coloured. So there's a copper one. This is white and gold. This is like a really deep gold with some black in. This is blue and white and a little bit of gold in there, and this is pink and white and a tiny little bit of gold in there. Now the reason I love these is for the simple reason that they are quite dimensional when you use them. But you can use all sorts. If you don't have thick embossing powder like these are, you can use just acrylic paint and splash that across your tag. And because these have a slight shimmer, they have glitter. I'm not sure. I think it might just, nope. Or maybe at the bottom. Yeah, look at the bottom by the label. Can you see as I move it, there is a slight shimmer, and that's where it's picking up the glitter. Now if you wanted to get glitter on your tag, then use that stamp and stick bond that I used in the previous video. Stamp with Versamark randomly on your tag. Heat up the stamp and bond, sprinkle your glitter on. Look at the technique that I used in the previous tag video, and that explains it in more detail. But that way you can splatter it with white acrylic paint and then get your glitter to stick on top. That's another easy option. But if you have these embossing powders, use these. So I've picked out two here, and the reason I've done that is because this is like an antique gold, this one, and I like the look of it on my tags as a background. And I'm just trying to be very, very careful here, just to get a few granules. Whoopsie daisy, a little bit too much there, but I can rectify that. I'm just gonna, you don't have to be too precise with this, but what you do need to be careful is when you are embossing it. Now I'm going to do that for you. I'm not going to do it all. I'm just going to show you how I got started. Now I've got a heat gun here, and apply it underneath. Don't put it on top, because as soon as you put it on top, your granules are going to fly everywhere, your embossing granules. So heat it from below and just take your time, and they will begin to start turning into liquid, and when they do, the granules will grab onto your card. Don't be tempted now, when you're probably seeing better than I am because of the angle, that these granules are beginning to react to the heat and are beginning to grab. Do not be tempted to revert to the front of your card, because while some are reacting, as you can see there are a good few that aren't. So I'm just going to change position with my hand. I'm still being very careful to keep this tag level, because these granules, certainly down here, are still just granules. Now my tag, you probably are not seeing it, but my tag is curving slightly. Now if you feel that your tag is going to curve too much and your granules are going to slide off, just drop your heat gun lower, away from your tag, so that there's not so much direct heat underneath. As well, you need to be careful, don't have your heat gun too close. I can't really show you from the angle of the camera how close I am, but I would say I'm about 4 inches, 3-4 inches below my tag. It does take a little while, as you can see, but just be patient. Now it's all beginning to go. Just watch out for your fingers as well, because it can get a little bit hot, as I'm finding out here. So I'm just very gently, just in case some of my granules haven't quite gone. And sorry, I'm gently wafting underneath. Okay. Now I'm going to revert to the top, but again, just bringing in my heat gun, just very, very gently from a distance. Okay, so that's just a slight shimmer, and that's picking up gold on my tag. I've got a few loose granules. Now, very quickly, what I'm going to do is, which one shall I use? Let me use the blue, icy blue one. Now, there you can see, these are lovely. Depending on how much you heat your granules, you can get a really lovely chunky embossing, so that it can look like snow. And I'm trying to be really, really gentle here to only get the tiniest of smattering. And you've probably seen me do this for the last 5 minutes and nothing's coming out. I'm just gonna help it. It's not coming. There we go. And for this, whoa, way too much there. Way too much there. Okay. Not quite what I wanted on my tag, but I can live with that. So, very, very gently, I'm just going to do this again, guys. So you might want, if it's like watching paint dry this, isn't it? If you want to, please, as I say, talk amongst yourselves, grab a coffee, or fast forward. But again, I'm heating it from down below, and as I said, there is glitter in this embossing powder, and what happens is when the granules of white start to liquefy, they actually grab the glitter and hold the glitter in place. Just going to change that round a little bit. So what I've tried to do is just kind of get a smattering all the way down the centre of my tag. It's not imperative. You can get that smattering everywhere if you want to, and I will show you in a moment what I've done. And I'm just reverting to on the top now and bringing it in gently from a distance. Now I'm going to just drop my heat gun. I'm just going to, that is completely set for my background. Now that's not the best background by far, so I will probably just use this as a test tag or something like that, but it doesn't really matter. It depends on how precise you want to be. So all I do next, or all I did next, was I put my wrong sides together with my tag and I glued it using my art glitter glue, and then I just randomly stitched, oops daisy, all the way around the outside of my tag, and I actually went through to the back. As I said previously, if you don't like your stitching showing on the back, then stitch your front tag, glue it to your back tag, wrong sides together, and that way you won't see the stitching on the other side. So this is one I did where, like this one, I went a bit haywire and it went all over, but it really doesn't matter at all. And then this is another one I did just using the gold and the silver and white embossing powder. So the next thing I did was to set an eyelet in the top of my tag, and for that I decided that I would on this one, because it's got a lot of white and silver on it predominantly, I've set it with a silver eyelet. Some I've set with gold eyelets. So that's the next stage. So you have your tags there. Now what you need to do is you need to decorate it. So for decoration purposes, for the foliage, I've used this die, which again is a Sizzix Alteration die. That's the product number 658759, and it's called Festive Greens, or no, it's not, it's called Holiday Greens. And I used this particular one and this particular one. And I just cut them out in 150 gram weight clear vellum. And for my poinsettia, as I've shown before, I use this Sizzix Alterations die. 658261 is the product code, and it's the Tattered Poinsettia. So I used those. I also used this tiny little one here. Now this one is a Provo Craft one, made in China. Now you can probably see I've had this little one for absolutely years and years in my stash, and I've used it for the little stars that are dotted round the snowflakes, and I think I did use a couple of this snowflake, but if you've got a punch you could equally use that. The other thing that I used to decorate my tags were just some stars that I had in my stash, and predominantly I used these ones, which they're plastic, but they're white on one side and iridescent on the other. I don't know if you can see the difference with those, and those were quite nice to use. So let's lift them out. Now the first tag that I thought I would decorate, because it is just the easiest and quickest to do, is I thought I would do the poinsettia one. So all I did for that was I cut out some random pieces of the poinsettia like so, and these are in just the plain vellum, and then after I cut them out I ran some through my embossing folder, and I've just got a Swiss Dots embossing folder, and I ran them through that. Now when I used this poinsettia die last time, I only used the two smaller size petals and layered those up, but for this one I've used all of the poinsettia, and I've used a mixture of, as you can see, the embossed one and the plain, and I've just layered it up, staggering. Let's try and do one very quickly for you, staggering the leaves. Now if you get an offcut like I did here, because I ran out of I was getting close to the edge of the vellum, don't worry about that in the slightest. Just get rid of that piece and still use it behind and layer it up, because it won't be noticeable, because you could just get another petal off one of your other ones. Well, I'm not going to wreck this one, but what you could easily do, and what I certainly have done with this one, is when you stagger up your petals, just take a spare petal off one of these and just glue it in there, and nobody will notice the difference. So you could quite easily do that and hide the fact that you've got a little faulty bit there. Nobody's going to see it. And then all I've done is I've just layered these up like so. I might put another, yeah, I'm going to put another big one in behind there. So you just layer it up as best you can, or as you like, to get the best effect, like so. I mean, that's just very, very randomly, quickly done for you. And then I have one here, as you can see. All I did for that was I went into my pearl stash and I used one of these little tiny gumdrop pearls. Now these are self-adhesive like the self-adhesive half pearls, and I just popped that on there. Now I know, and I haven't done that very straight, I know that these little gumdrops, once they're set in place and they've grabbed, they don't move. So I don't actually have to put any glue behind these. I usually do with the half pearls, but the glue I use is this art glitter glue, and it's amazing. It holds it perfectly in place. So let me clear my decks again for you here. To actually glue this one in place, again I use the art glitter glue, and on this one I created a banner, and I showed you the die that I used for creating those in my last video, and as you can see I've just printed out a few on the computer and just cut out my banners. So I'm just picking one that I like. So I'm going to use that Jolly Noel, which obviously is French for Merry Christmas. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a bend. Use my art glitter glue at each end. Now the reason I'm putting the label on first is so that I know where to position my poinsettia. So that's what I was doing there. And I've just done it so that you get a little bit of dimension there. And with these ones, I haven't painted them, I haven't done anything with them at all. And I'm just going to put a little bit of art glitter glue on the back of my poinsettia in the middle. Just pick out where I want her to be. I think I want her to be about there. Just going to hold her up, and I'm just going to press her down while she grabs. Now if you wanted to, you could use some twine behind us or some eyelash trim. Something like that would be really nice, but I'm not going to do that on mine. I'm just going to let her settle for a minute or two, and while she's doing that, I have got some lovely chiffon sari here, and I'm just going to tie a nice bow at the top. So I've got a double length here, and I'm just going to pop that through the back. Oopsie-daisy. Got my glasses off to one side, and I should be using them quite honestly. So a little gentle poke through there to get my sari through. And I have a few little dangles off to one side here that I have made, and obviously that's the one I need to use on this little one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread my sari through that eyelet, jump ring, through my jump ring, like so. And it's just caught for some reason on my sari. There's a lot of threads on this sari actually, so it makes it a little bit tricky. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie a bow. Oops, a daisy. And actually it would be far easier if I did just trim my sari rather than try and keep it all on one piece. Level up my ends a little bit there. And it makes it a little bit tricky when it is doubled over like this, but I love the effect of all the loops. So I'm just going to have to fiddle with that a little bit off camera, everybody, but you end up with lots of fluffy loops, and I'm just going to trim that one off at a slight angle. Like so. And then these just fluff out a little bit just to create lots of fluffiness. So as you can see, a really simple tag, everybody. Nothing difficult about that one at all. Basically it's the products that are doing the work for you. The vellum looks lovely when it's embossed, even when it's plain, and by layering it up it just gives lots of interest. And now that it's grabbed, all I'm doing is I'm just raising those petals slightly, just so that I've got a bit of dimension on my tag, as you can see there. So there we go, a really simple one. This is the one I did earlier with just a single fluff of or bow using the sari silk, and this is the double one, and actually I like the double one better. So there we go, two very simple tags there. Now for the other tag, this is a little bit more complicated, but only in terms of the time it takes to layer. Now I've got some circles here, and all I did was I've got a nesting set of circle dies. Could you just bear with me one moment? My cat wants to go out. Come on, you boy. Come on, there. There you go. Good boy. Sorry about that, everybody. Bishop has been sat by the side of me here, and I didn't have the foresight to put a chair by the side of me, so any moment now he was going to be joining me on the work surface, and he's not as good as Leo, and everything would have gone flying, so sorry about that. So I've just popped him out through the door. So as I was saying, I've got a set of circle dies that are nesting, i.e. for the newbies, the circles graduate in size from small to large, and you can use those circles to obviously cut out and create single circles. But if you use two together, you do get a circle that you can chop in half, which is what I've done here, and it doesn't matter that you break the circle to create interest on your tag. Now you can buy, this is one where I haven't let it break at the side. You can find dies that are just rough cuts, so that you get random circles like this. Now I haven't got one of those. As much as I would love one, I haven't got one, so I had to improvise by creating my own little circles like that. And all I've done, as you can see, is I've just put them on my page, and I have just randomly overlapped them. Now what I'm doing now is I'm just going to touch my circles in a couple of places on the back. Let me get rid of some of that glue that's stuck there. Let's lift off this top one. I'm just going to touch my circle at random places, particularly where that split is, and I'm just going to let it go back down onto my tag, just off to one side. Now my arrangement, this is the one I'm doing now, my arrangement is predominantly to the right hand side, so I now need to make sure that I have my circles leaving me with a little gap here on the right hand side. And again, another little tip is, if you are cutting out these circles from craft paper that has a right side and a wrong side, make sure that you are using whatever side you have chosen as your uppermost piece, rather than what you chose to be the wrong side for the inside of your tag. And I've got a loose end there. I'll just trim that in. Let's get my other scissors out because they tend to be slightly sharper. There we go, that's a bit better. Now I haven't glued those circles all the way around because I want some dimension or some lift. As you can see on this one, there is a little bit of lift in places, you can see. And again, it just adds a little bit more interest on your tag. Now the next thing I did was I put some twine on. Now this is some of the Avril art thread or art twine, and that's what I used on that one. But on this one I've just used some very, very fine linen thread that I had in my stash, and this is what I used for that one. So you could use cotton if you wanted to. I'm going to use this one again, and you can use whatever you want to create this look. And all I did was I took a length about 8 inches, and I just wrapped it round my fingers just loosely to create something like that. And again, I'm just going to pop that on my page, but what I am going to do is I'm going to try and knot it very, very quickly, and this is where these tweezers come in so handy. So I'm just going to knot it. And the reason I'm doing that is because you could try just gluing it as it is, everybody, but what I tend to find, it moves, so I find it's actually easier to create a knot and it doesn't want to knot because I've left myself a really, really tiny piece of thread here to try and knot. Yes, come on, come on, come on, come on. Even with my tweezers, this is proving a challenge. Does not want to knot. Okay, well, I've already got half my knot there, so I'm hoping, there we go. I've just tightened it up a bit. That will make life a lot easier. all else fails, use your teeth. So I've just done a gentle knot there, and I'm not bothered about the ends that I have left here, because that just adds to the interest on your tag. And what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to just stick it down on my circles, and I'm not bothered in the slightest where my little loops go. I'm just going to let them randomly fall on my page like so, or on my tag I should say, like so. Okay, so also what I have here is I have a button, and I'm going to just thread up my button with some of the same thread. Now, if you've left long enough tails on on that circle that we've just created, you could, if you wanted to, thread your button through with those tails and create a bow, but obviously I didn't. So what I'm doing now is I'm just looping my thread a couple of times through the hole on my button, and it is a little bit tricky again, so thank goodness for tweezers. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie a very quick bow on my button. Okay, and I'm just going to reduce those loops a little bit. Like so. And again, you could leave your tails if you wanted to, or not, as the case may be, but I'm going to take these little pieces that I've just chopped off, and I'm going to use those in a moment. So there's my button with maybe a little bit of a bow that's too big, but hey, I can live with that. And then all I did for this was I layered it up using the bits and bobs that I had got in my stash from a die cutting. So what I thought I would do was I usually start with these and create a bit of dimension down the side of my page. So I'm just going to quietly get on with that, everybody, and concentrate. So if you can just bear with me. And like a little bit down the side here. So it's just a case of really just playing with the pieces that you've cut out and layering them up. I'm letting them go slightly off the edge of my tag because I think that will give me some interest. And then these pieces, and I'm just gluing at the bottom because again I want some lift, I want some dimension on my page or on my tag. There we go. Hope I'm staying in frame for you. And again, just what I'm doing with my leaves actually from my poinsettia, I'm just pinching the bottom, not putting in a major crease. I'm just pinching it to get a slight angle there, and then I'm putting a bit of glue on the bottom, and I'm just tucking it under the pieces that I've already popped on my page, or on my tag. I keep on calling it my page, don't I? So I'm looking here for, off to one side, I'm looking for some of the poinsettia that was embossed, because I think that would be quite nice. I'm just going to pull out my little ends, and then it, as I say, it's just a matter of layering it up and playing where you want your decoration to be. I think I might find a small piece. And that's the lovely thing, if you end up die cutting too much of your foliage or your poinsettias, you can very easily use them on projects like this. Or the other thing is, if you have found that you have got an incomplete leaf or die cut, you can very easily just rip them apart and use the bits that work for you to build up your little collage. Now, these holly pieces, I like these. They make lovely tiny little fillers, and they also have a slight vein running down the centre. So again, that adds some interest on my collage. And oh boy, do I love my tweezers. Certainly for little projects like this. So even though I'm working up and down the side of my tag here, I am having regard to the fact that I am creating a centre point just there. I'll just pop this piece in and I will show you. And I don't mind, as I say, working off the side of my page, my tag. Oh gosh, you see, I'm working round this as my centre point. I'm not bothered that my little ends are just caught in there, because I'm going to be adding some more in a moment or two. I think what I will do also is, I'm enjoying using this embossed leaf, so I think I will just pop that one in the side there to add some more interest. And I found when I'm doing this, or certainly when I was doing it on the other tags, that the first one I did, I was very minimalistic with the foliage that I put on. And then by the time I got to the third one, I was absolutely filling it up round here, and I actually liked that look better. So I then ended up going back in and doing that on the first two tags, and adding in more foliage, just really because it was looking much better the fuller it was, and because it's vellum, it doesn't take any space up really on your tag. It might look very dimensionalized to you guys, but actually it isn't, and vellum is incredibly forgiving and durable. Okay, so I think we're almost done. I'm just going to try my bow in there, and it really is a bit too big for my liking, so I'm just going to play with it a little bit more, if you don't mind, just to get it so I'm happy with it. this twine is so fiddly. Okay, so I'm just going to chop those pieces off. Now I'm quite liking how that looks on there at the moment. I just feel like I want another piece in here. So I'm going to get another piece of my holly and just pop that in there. Just give it a second to grab. Okay, and now I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back of my mother of pearl button here. And I'm going to pop that down. Just give it a second or two to hold or grab. And then with these little bits, I'm just going to find some nice little areas and just pop my thread in so that I'm using it up. And again, it just adds a little bit of interest to my tag, makes it a little, the edges a little bit softer. So I'm going to put a little bit under here to soften that piece up. And another piece under here. As I say, guys, just a really easy tag. It looks complicated, but it isn't. It's just layering and what you use, the vellum and the embossing and everything else. It's the products really that make the tag. Okay, now I'm just going to check that. I'm not going to fiddle with that too much because it just takes a minute or two to grab. I'm asking it to do a lot. It's holding a big button, so I'm just going to give it a minute or two to settle. Now what I did was, as you can see, I've used a mixture of tiny little stars, craft card stars and those iridescent stars. So for those, for the vellum stars, I used this die cut, and also for the craft card stars I used those die cuts, and as you can see I've got them here on my mat to one side of me. And all I did for those was I just picked out, let's lift my holly out of the way, and you can see here's my craft card stars, and all I did was I picked my star, put a tiny blob of glue on my circle or wherever I wanted it on my tag, and just pop my star down. And I tended to kind of grouped them together just for interest. Sometimes I put them on the circles, sometimes just off, but kind of just wanted to randomly stagger them. And the lovely thing, as always, about this art glitter glue is that it dries clear. So even when you're using vellum, it's beautiful. It dries clear. It's not going to wreck your project in any way. So you can see I've got some tiny little stars here. It's about 2 millimeters across, this one. So I'm just going to pop that on there like so. And then I thought I might use a couple of these plastic ones. And again, I'm asking my art glitter glue to do a lot because it's gluing plastic, but it will work. It does work. You just have to give it a minute or two to grab, and it will do the trick. So I think I will putting yeah, I think I will put it there. Oopsie daisy. Now what I'm going to do, and what I should have done really, is anchored down this. Now you don't have to, but I kind of like to. So, also what I thought I would do is I would put a snowflake in there. Yeah, I want to put something down in this little bit down here. So what I thought I would do was I would just pop a little snowflake down in there, and what I'm doing is I'm just gluing the centre of my snowflake because I'm going to smooch it down so that I can get some dimension from it when it's down. There we go. Okay, so the other thing I did on my tags was I added a little half pearl. So I have some off here to one side, and wherever I put these, I just like to put a little dab of art glitter glue, because I find these little things ping off everywhere if I am not careful. So I'm just going to pop that one on there. And I'm popping it on my thread a little bit just to anchor it down. As I said, you don't need to, but it's quite nice to do that. And I just think it's nice to pop these little pearls in randomly here and there on your project, just to give a little bit more interest on it. Oops, a daisy, that one's gone for walkabouts. I want one for the middle of my snowflake. And I like it because, I like using these because not only do they add a little bit more interest on your tag, but I kind of think that it just marries in with the Swiss dots on the die cutting, and it gives a little bit more bling. So really it's just a matter of where you want things to be on your tag. Just going to pop a couple underneath here, just tuck them in for interest. There we go. I think I'm trying to do less is more. And I always find that a little bit hard to do. But I kind of think at Christmas time, it's okay to have a bit of bling, isn't it? So now we have just a couple more things to do to finish it off. So again, I've got my Sari silk or chiffon Sari to one side here, and again I'm just going to get rid of some loose threads on it. Whoops a daisy, there we go. And I have a couple of charms again that I've made. You saw me make these the other day. So I've got a crystally clear one here, and then I've got some of the icy ones. So I think I will use one of the icy ones. I quite like those. So I'm going to double up my Sari silk again, because I really do like the fluffiness of my bows. And sorry everybody, you're going to see me struggle again with these bows, but let me just clear my decks a little bit for you. Oh, I haven't put my dangle on, have I? Oh, forget my head if it was loose. So I hope you've all been enjoying your weekend, everybody, and it's not over yet, so I hope you're going to get a chance to have a little bit of a play this afternoon in your own happy spaces or your own craft rooms, if you haven't had chance already. I know weekends are usually busy for me, but it's a little bit better when the weather, when it's like this at the moment and all the chores have been done out in the garden, because it means I have a little bit more time to play inside. All our Christmas decorations are up now, which is lovely, and I can have the morning to myself to do this little bit of crafting. So there we go. Just going to trim that piece off. Trim that one off a little bit more. Okay, so I've got some edges here that I need to trim off. I've got a lot of threads that you are probably not picking up on camera there, but there's my bow, like so, and my dangle. So I'm just going to trim off these pieces here, like so, like that. Now for the snow that I've created on this one, I've used this product here, which is a snow pen by Rayher, and again I will put the link down below. I've been using this now for probably the last few weeks, and I really like it. It does come out a little bit quick, but all I did was I just touched it up the edge of my vellum, just like this, randomly on my card. When I got to pieces like this, my fern pieces I think, I just went down the lines. Now I'm hardly pressing on this pen at all, because it will come out very, very quickly. But all I did was exactly what I'm doing here, is just randomly touch round my pieces on my tag to create a snowy effect, and I really liked how that looked. I left my first tag plain without any of this on. And I have to say, when I did my second tag with it, I really liked the dimension. I loved how it looked, and I just thought it gave a lot more interest on my tag. And because it's snowy here today, I thought that I would do the same on this tag. And you probably are better off doing less is more on these, and building up your layers. But there we have it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video and seeing what I created. As I say, it looks a complicated tag to do, but honestly, it really, really isn't. And regardless of if you do the poinsettia or this layering, I think they make nice tags. So thank you so much, everybody, for letting me share these with you today, and take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye bye.